or in spirit, and to turn in our gray hymnal to hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, hymn number 163. For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue green hills of earth. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. My name is Joe Libin, and I am a member of the Lay Worship Leaders Program, and it is my honor to welcome you to the first Unitarian Universalist congregation of Ann Arbor, where we have been gathering in community for over 150 years. Our sanctuary is a refuge from the world around us, a place to come and be re-energized, recalibrated, to be nourished, held, and loved. For some, this home is as familiar as the palm of your hand, a place where you've lived and loved, cried and cheered, a place where you have been witness to all of life's changes, a place full of memory. For others, this place is still new, the corners unfamiliar, the faces unknown, the vibe as yet to be explored, a place to be a guest. For others still, you are joining us from the realm of streaming or at a later time at your own pace. No matter where, when, or how you are joining us, we are so glad to be here together in this, our home. If you are joining us for the first time in person, we welcome you to a newcomers meetup directly after the service in the Red Room, which is just down the hall on your left. There, a representative of our community will be on hand to answer questions and tell you more about who and what we are. If you're joining us online, please introduce yourself in the chat. And if this is your first time doing so, we encourage you to fill out the newcomers survey, which can be found at uuaa.org/newcomers survey. By doing so, you graciously allow us a chance to get to know you better and to welcome you into our community. Next week, we will be celebrating Halloween twice at UUAA, once for Family Fun Night on Friday, October 25th, and then again on Sunday the 27th here in the sanctuary. Traditionally, this has been a time when people of all ages are encouraged to dress up and share their spooky, weird, mysterious, eerie, ghostly, witchy, creepy, chilling, silly selves. As a reminder, we ask that you do not bring any weapons or violent props, and we also request no masks or anything especially scary. Friday Fun Night festivities include devilishly delicious pizza dinner, a creepy creative costume parade, a marvelous mummy rap, captivating Candy Roulette, a viewing of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and a horribly haunted house built by YRUU and our coming-of-age group. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. Today's service will be focused on the culture and people of the island nation of Kiribati, and we will also learn how the UUSC, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, is supporting them while they struggle with the devastating environmental destruction brought on by climate change. I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like to watch your home slowly taken over by the rising sea. The home you know as well as the palm of your hand, the home you've welcomed guests into, the home you've built and tended to, the home where your family, your friends, and your heart lives, slowly, sadly, disappearing under the waves of the encroaching ocean. The question then becomes how to respond to such devastation. People respond to heartbreaking events around the world in a myriad of ways. Most notably, they turn to music. The melodies, harmonies, and even dissonance serve as a medium for storytelling, social advocacy, and preserving history. In Kiribati, songs function as links to the past, celebrations of the present, and calls for action in the future. I believe our anthem today, Earth Song by Frank Ticheli, connects deeply with their struggle and their story. He writes, "But music and singing have been my refuge, and music and singing shall be my light. A light of song shining strong, hallelujah, hallelujah. Through darkness and pain and strife, I'll sing, I'll be, live, see." Let us now take a moment to center ourselves here in the present, in our spiritual home, rooted in deep tradition, responding to the challenges of today with the energy of action. Please take a moment now to close your eyes and share a breath together. We are now gathered in community. We are gathered for worship. Each week when we gather, we reignite our commitment to ourselves, to our community, and to the world beyond our sanctuary doors. This morning, I would like to invite Holly Ferrise to light the chalice. Every Sunday, we engage in familiar rituals that are meant to center us by removing distractions and reminding us, through visual and audio cues, why we are choosing to be here and what we are focusing our efforts on. The beacon of light that is our chalice has been a symbol of Unitarian Universalism since World War II, one of the bleakest times the world has ever seen. A shining light, visible in windows and door frames, in sanctuaries and in prisons, one that represented so much for so many, a call to action, a comfort for the afflicted, and a testament to the strength of community to resist the destructive powers of fascism, greed, and acrimony. If you're joining us online today, please gather your chalice and let us know in the chat from where you are lighting your beacon, where you are igniting your commitment. And for those of us in the sanctuary today, let us now join our voices in the familiar words of our chalice lighting. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Holly. Each and every Sunday, when we come together for worship, for community, for connection, we open ourselves up to the transformational power of love. Though we are not bound by an allegiance to any particular belief or system of understanding, we are united in our commitment to each other and the world around us. Each week, we renew that commitment and connection by engaging intentionally with the words of our community's covenant. We observe the world around us, our awesome, beautiful, natural world, which is now an environment besieged by greed and plundered for profit, in which our neighbors, who are overwhelmed by despair, caused by disparities in access to safety, supplies, and sanctuary, struggle to live. We hold the simultaneous truths that the sanctity of nature, the awe of the natural world, is coexisting with human suffering such as the world has never seen. And we hold on to hope, spurred by action, to inspire us to cherish that wonderful world and transform it for our fellow humans into a beautiful, safe sanctuary where trees of green and red roses bloom. Each week, we make a promise to serve with love, to be intentional in our relationships with each other, to seek out our truths, and most importantly, to help one another. Please join me now as we say the familiar words of our covenant. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
Today's Time for All Ages story will be My Wounded Island, written by Jacques Pasquette and illustrated by Marian Arbona. My name is Amarfaluk. In my language, Inupiat, it means the song of the waves. It was my grandfather who named me when I was a baby. Every time I cried, it made him think of the sea. I love my name, but I no longer love the sea. The sea scares me now. The sea is bewitched by an evil creature. The creature has made the sea a monster that is slowly devouring our island, the island of Sereshef. It's a very small island. On a map of the world on a classroom wall, you'd think Sereshef was a speck, a minuscule dot, or nothing at all. An ink stain near the Arctic Circle between Russia and Alaska. Grandfather reminds me that this island is the land of our people, the Inupiat. Our ancestors have lived here a very long time. We no longer live in igloos in the winter. Now we live in modern little wooden houses, like one big family on the island's only village, Shishmaref. But just like in the old days, the men still hunt bearded seal, walrus, elk, and caribou. Now, almost everyone has a snowmobile, but grandfather prefers his dog sled. In the past, he used to take me out on it, even though I was scared of the dogs, especially the one leading the team. But today, it's the inevitable creature hidden in the waves that frightens me the most. Because of this monster, we can no longer go on the pack ice. I'm scared the creature will come and devour the village in the night, and our house will plunge into the sea. Sometimes I can't fall asleep. The slightest cracking sound frightens me. I can't ever forget the fury of the sea. Once, huge waves as high and so strong almost swallowed the entire village. Its powers are so mighty that even winter is retreating early from the island. The pack ice that used to protect us from storms only brushes lightly against the island. It no longer dares to come near. The seal hunters can't venture out there on foot or snowmobile. It's too dangerous. Now they use motorboats. Nothing can resist this creature. It takes its strength from spirits who are unknown to our people. Outsiders who are studying this monster came to Shishmaref. They explained to us that other areas of the world are also victims of this creature. They taught us that this tragedy has been caused partly by humans, that the climate is changing, the earth is warming, and this heat gives the creature all of its destructive force. Because of the warmer temperatures, glaciers are melting and the water is rising. Our island, like all the others that are too close to sea level, could disappear under the seas. Since we learned about our fate, I have often had a nightmare. I dream that our island is an immense sandcastle. I am inside and it's gently crumbling, drawing me into the waves. I see the creature's huge eyes and hear its loud cackles of laughter. I try to escape by flying away, holding on to the feathers of my spirit animal totem. But the creature holds me down by my feet. In a few days, our house will be moved to the center of the island, near where the rest of the houses that were too close to the sea now sit. A crane sets the houses on enormous skis, and a tractor tows them away from the shore until they are safely sheltered from the creature's waves. But sooner or later, we will all have to leave our island for good. Where will we go? Everyone is asking that question. Grandfather says we will need to find a land where it will be possible to continue to live as we did before. Others speak of moving to Nome, a big city on the mainland. They think life will be easier and more comfortable there, that finally there will be running water in their homes. My father would like us to work together to build a new village on the mainland, but it would cost too much, said the people who could help. My parents are still hesitating, but grandfather has decided. He does not want to go to Nome. He is scared we will lose our traditions in a city that knows nothing of our customs. Like many, he would prefer to live in our summer camp on the tundra. What worries grandfather the most is that this creature will make not only our island disappear, but also the memories of our people. I love storytelling, and I love story time at UUAA. I love the artful way that values can be woven subtly through a narrative with a personal touch, and I love the beauty of words and art. I love the hopeful, inspired feelings that many children's books provide. This book has much beauty, and yet my first read-through felt like a gut punch. The truth is, the world isn't always a feel-good place. Still, art can help us express and put our feelings into context, share our grief, and document our history. The witnessing of stories like a Marvelux is important. Her story deserves to be known, and we deserve to know the truth about our community of earthgoers. According to the group Climate Refugees, 60% of the 30.6 million people who were displaced across 135 countries in 2017 were displaced because of disasters that have been exacerbated by climate change. The large and continuing flow of refugees due to climate-based disasters show us that global warming is not just an environmental problem, but also a human rights one, especially since we know that those most affected are often the most marginalized and vulnerable of folks on the planet. How do we help families and communities like Marveluk's? How do we open our hearts to this kind of pain and still provide the tangible support that people will need in these increasing climate justice-related crises? How do we honor and preserve cultures and ways of lives that are not the same as ours? I wish I had the answers to these questions. I do not. But what I do know is that witness is important, that art can help transform grief and preserve history, that coming together in community is the only way through, and that love must remain at the center of all that guides us. May we love well. Please join me in singing our children off to their classes with this little light of mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Good morning. This month marks our congregation's annual fundraising drive, which is known as our Stewardship Drive. It's the time when we reflect on our individual or family commitments to this congregation in terms of time and energy we might be able to offer, our volunteership, as well as our financial resources. All of that together, taken as a whole, defines what we as a community are able to do in the year ahead. If you haven't had a chance to return your annual pledge or annual financial commitment yet to the congregation, there will be a stewardship table in the entryway hall as you're departing the congregation. Please do stop by and take a quick moment to consider and fill out that form. Those who complete the form this month, return their pledges this month, you're automatically entered into a raffle to win a prize basket of goodies. We've already had a winner, and if you get your pledge returned today, you can qualify for the next upcoming raffles as well. To help us reflect on our commitment to this congregation, what this community means to us in our lives, Reese Havlatka will be sharing a personal testimonial with us this morning. I invite Reese into our pulpit.
It's good to be with you this morning. My name is Reese Havlatka. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and that's not my phone ringing. Thank God. I've been a member of this congregation since 2019, and one of the great joys of my life is being a parent. I am the very proud mom to a force of nature named April. And to me, one of the most powerful means of parenting is through role modeling. We know that kids pay as much attention to what we do if not more, than to what we say. These past almost 5 years have been some of the most difficult of my life. And I know a number of people in this room and online who can relate. My work as a parent for the last 5 years has been to ask myself over and over again, what do I want to role model? What do I want to role model in the midst of a global pandemic? What do I want to role model in the midst of school shootings? What do I want to role model in the midst of devastating climate disasters, in the midst of US-funded genocide in Gaza? Who do I want to be when the state of Texas is killing pregnant people and the state of Missouri is executing an innocent black man or any person at all? Who do I want to be when the state of Florida is violently denying the right of trans people to even exist? Who do I want to be? The first thing that I want to be is a person who feels the grief of all of that, all of it, the weight of it, the significance. I want to role model being a person who grieves what it is to be a person right now. And my work in the last 5 years has been to ask myself, how much grief can I let in? How much can I feel it? And how soft and how gentle and how open and how loving can I let myself be while I feel it? It is so hard. It is so hard. And you know what helps me do it? This community does. Because I can be the most loving and the most gentle and the most connected to humanity when I know that I'm not alone. Because I have this congregation, I don't have to rely on somehow feeling hopeful to be the person that I want to be the parent I want to be. I don't have to feel hope to look at this. Did you all get this in the mail? This is some of what our congregation has been up to in the last year in service to our Vision 2050 goals. I don't have to feel hope to look at this and to know that this community is working to improve the common good. I don't have to feel hope to know that the UUAA General Assembly voted to adopt an action of immediate witness naming the genocide in Gaza, and to know that this denomination is actively working to support trans people and their families who have been displaced. I know for a fact, I know factually, that Unitarian Universalists are on the front lines of building the world, the future that we are dreaming of and that we need. As a UU, I can feel grief and still show up. This is the energy of action. The energy of action is the antidote to despair. And it runs through me as the current that keeps me alive. And in return, I do my part to keep this congregation alive, to sustain it. And one of the ways that I do that is by making a financial commitment, a pledge, every year. And every Sunday, when we light the chalice and we talk about the energy of action, we are called to share our vital currency with each other. From an anti-capitalist lens, money is currency. It's one of many forms of energy that we share with each other. And so I invite you to share. I invite you to pledge as generously as you can so that we can continue to build the future that we need together. I am relying on each one of you to do your part. And you can absolutely rely on me to do mine. It is such an honor to get to be in community with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, choir, and thank you, Reese. I've heard many beautiful, beautiful testimonies in this sanctuary, and that was truly a soul-stirring one. Really grateful for you. I want to share with you today a little bit about the end of my sabbatical. As I was closing it out this past spring, I traveled to the South Pacific as co-chair of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Board of Trustees. Now, I want to say just a quick word about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which some of us know as the UUSC. Some of us are very familiar with the UUSC, and others of us, it might be newer to this organization. The UUSC was founded as a human rights response to the atrocities of World War II. It has continued to exist in our movement and today works with over 60 grassroots partners in 20 countries around the world. The USC partners with communities that are often left behind by larger non-governmental agencies, working with the most vulnerable and marginalized communities on our planet. It is partner-centered and partner-led work, so a major component of how the USC organizes its work is that it believes that those who are directly affected by injustice are the ones that know what solutions are needed. So the solutions are partner-centered and partner-led. Here in our congregation, we know the UUSC directly in a number of tangible ways. This year is the 50th year anniversary of the Guest at Your Table program, which is a UUSC program. Little kids at times have been invited to carry around a box and collect loose change, either in the social hall or at their dinner tables, which are then donated to the UUSC. Also in our social hall, every Sunday, we have an equal exchange table, which includes the sale of coffee and chocolates that are produced through fair trade, the proceeds of which are partially donated to the UUSC. So this is an organization that is much beloved by us Unitarian Universalists, myself included. So as co-chair of the board of trustees of that organization, I had the opportunity to travel to the South Pacific and meet some of the UUSC's partners there. Now, if you're of my age or older, when you think of that region of the world, you might think of the Brady Bunch episode when they traveled to Hawaii, which was kind of emblematic for me around like what the landscape might be like, palm trees and sunshine and adventure, lots of beautiful open water. I want to share with you a little bit of both the landscape, the topography, and the culture that I encountered there. So first, I'd say that the nation I visited is the island nation known as Kiribati. It's an archipelago of many different islands, many islands. It's spelled, if you look it up on a globe or a map, Kiribati, K-I-R-I-B-A-T-I, but the T-I at the end is pronounced as an S in their language. So their nation is Kiribati. You have to get to Fiji somehow in order to get there, and then there are infrequent flights from Fiji north and to the east to Kiribati. So I found myself on a plane traveling towards the capital. The capital of Kiribati is Tarawa. And there is nothing but ocean in any direction that you look. This is vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean. And then slowly out of the water, you start to see sandbars in the water, in the ocean, just tufts of little sand that are just sticking out of the ocean. And you start to wonder, well, you know, the plane is starting to descend. Where are we descending to? And then you see out of the water a thin strip of land that the plane is flying alongside. A couple of buildings on it, but really thin. This is all very low-lying, practically ocean level. Where would you land a plane on that? That's what I was left wondering as the plane continues descending and descending. And then at the last moment, when you're like, I'm pretty sure this is not a water landing that we're about to do, the sandbar widens out, and there's enough sand that you can imagine that there might be a small little airstrip. The plane lands at what is grandly named Tarawa International Airport, which is an international airport with one little landing strip, one gate, and one tiny little baby carousel aspiring to be grander than it might be. When you land there, you are quickly greeted with the culture and the people of Kiribati. Now, Tarawa is not a tourist destination at all. There's not a single hotel in their capital city. There are just tiny little guest houses, which is like somebody who's living there, they're renting out a bedroom occasionally to visitors as they pass through, that kind of thing. And I was visiting on this infrequently visited island, a UUSC partner by the name of Te Toa Matoa. They are a local organization that supports the needs of those with disabilities, physical disabilities, cognitive disabilities, developmental disabilities, disabilities of all kinds. They're a federation of organizations that work on those sets of issues. If you visit Kiribati from outside, you are an honored guest, in part because everybody knows it's very hard to get to their islands. So if you've made the huge effort to come all the way out and be with them and their people, you are treated as one of their own. You are not a foreigner, you're not a tourist. You are absolutely honored as somebody, almost like a family member that they're meeting for the first time. That's a good way to think of it. They were, as a family member that they're meeting for the first time, there were elaborate welcoming ceremonies everywhere I went, just for me, which was alarming almost, actually. Because these welcoming ceremonies, it wasn't like a brief 5-minute, 10-minute thing. Even that would be more than needed. 2 hours minimum were the welcoming ceremonies, and there would be a flowers crown you would receive, a wreath on your head. There would be dancing and music, and both that are integral parts of their culture and how they express their culture. The hand gestures, the movements, convey stories and messages and values about their culture. All of this offered from a place of inclusivity, of invitation. They may be dancing, but guess what? You will be too as part of that welcome ceremony because you're family. Of course you're going to dance with them, not simply watch the dancing. You're here. You're one of us. You are among the people. As an honored guest, you are always invited to speak, whether you want to or not, or are expecting it or not. And it's hoped that you'll share a little bit about who you are, what your life is about, why you've gone so far out of your way to be with the people of Kiribati. I encountered in these communities, in these settings, a deep sense of joy. This is not a country or a people that has material wealth at all. But there was a wealth of the human spirit, a joy at being alive and being deeply connected with one another in community. I discovered, too, that this is a people that has a sense of humor, even quirky sense of humor at times. It's highly self-deprecating, and they absolutely love it if you make a mistake or do something foolish. If you happen to accidentally trip over your own foot, they would love it. They will guffaw, think it's the best thing that has happened all day, and laugh and rohlck with you about how silly we human animals are. And their culture was just like that. It was constantly like that, just looking for the silliness and irony in life. Into this mix, I happened to travel to the nation of Kiribati during Easter, which I wondered is that a good time or bad time to be there? Maybe I'm imposing on the cultural celebrations of others. Not at all. But I will, kind of advise, if any of you ever think about visiting the South Pacific or Kiribati, their celebration of Easter, if you find the Unitarian Universalist version a little bit long or tedious at times, that's nothing. The religious ceremony alone was 3 hours, and then there were cultural celebrations after the religious celebrations that lasted another 6 hours. And I didn't even try to do the whole 9-hour thing. I went with, 6 hours in to the cultural celebrations I joined. And I was traveling with a UUSC lead staff person who did actually do the full 9 hours. And as I went and I joined this person, I was surprised, and I shouldn't have been. I should have totally known and predicted that this was going to happen. Hundreds and hundreds of people, 400 or 500 or more, gathered for this cultural celebration of Easter. I'm taken to the very center of the entire thing that is happening. And there are 3 chairs. And it is myself, the staff person from the UUSC, and another foreign visitor. We're plopped down in the middle of the entire cultural celebration watching, what I learned was a kind of like a dance-off going on. There were cultural presentations of dance and music from different neighborhood groups, and they were having a lot of fun with it, kind of not in a competitive way, but in a very playful kind of way, seeing, you know, which neighborhood or which group could do better. Well, somewhere as this dancing and music proceeded, the three visitors from outside of Kiribati were invited to join in. At this point, I was used to this. This wasn't totally a surprise. But what I didn't know is that there was a gag about to unfold, because they didn't tell any of us that there was a gag about to unfold, an inside joke. And the inside joke was, how long would it take to embarrass the honored guests and have them turn all red and kind of uncomfortable when confronted with the physicality and sensuality of South Pacific Island dancing? And so my two women friends who were from outside of Kiribati, they had male dancers dancing very sensually and intimately with them. I had a young woman who was assigned to me, and she was dancing very sensually and physically with me. Now, the thing that they don't know, but you do, is that I'm a gay man. I have danced with straight women provocatively my entire life, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything other than you're having fun. So, and I'll tell you, I'm not about to lose a dance-off. That's gay demerit points that I don't need. So this young woman is dancing provocatively with me, and I just torso wiggle back, I hip thrust back, I booty bounce back. This is not what's supposed to be happening. People are a little surprised. And so the more experienced female dancers, they decide that this young lady's not doing it right. The more experienced dancers, the aunties, they begin to sequentially tap out the young woman, one at a time, successively tap her out. The first one, the auntie that comes up, she's like twirling me around, and then she hip checks me. I hip check her as strongly back. She gets tapped out. Another auntie comes in, again with the twirling and all that, and at some point my legs are a little bit further apart. She slides on the floor and is sliding in between her whole body in between my legs. I just hop over her. This goes on, and this is a hot tropical climate. I'm like drenched with sweat. Finally, they decide that, okay, well, it has to be called a tie, even though it was supposed to not go this way. And I discover as the ceremonies come to a close, this is the 9th hour of their celebrations of Easter, when everything finally closes. All this gaggle of children are gathered all around me, and I'm totally perplexed and confused. Why are these young children? And they're giggling and laughing, and they thought I was the coolest thing around. The aunties couldn't embarrass me. I was like a local celebrity to them. It was quite fun. I can't impress my own children, but I've got a little fan club of young ones in Kiribati. Well, this is just to share and help bring alive some of the joy and the vibrance and sense of connection and humor that is part of the Kiribati people and their culture. You know what I loved about that is, you know, it's never a making fun of anybody, even when there's a gag or an inside joke. You're a part of it. You're an integral part of it. You can have fun too, and I totally love that about them. While there, I also got to see firsthand and really well the challenges that these people are facing. You know, very similar to how in the United States our indigenous and black communities struggle with access to healthy food and nutrition. In the capital city, this was one of the first things I noticed leaving the airport. I noticed children who looked like they were malnourished. I visited the one thing that we, from the West, would identify as a grocery store. And it was virtually all processed foods, of various levels of unhealth, but all unhealthy. I noticed that your average person in Kiribati is living a subsistence-level existence. They live in homes with thatch huts that they have woven themselves, gather the leaves to weave. That also means that in the morning, they're sending the teenager up the tree to get a coconut. The coconut is breakfast. And then later in the day, as they fish, whatever they catch for fish, that's lunch and that's dinner. This is a nation that has a very low per capita annual income, about half that of Bangladesh. And nobody thinks Bangladesh is wealthy. Imagine a people that are living on half the income that the average Bangladeshi has. Locally, anything that might appear or be of Western origin, comforts that we take for granted, anything of that kind had to be imported. And the local cost for these imported goods was excessively high, incredibly high. The villages of Kiribati, these fishing villages, are all grappling with coastal erosion already. And without any kind of concerted national or international strategy, they're coming up with their own little homemade remedies for what might help prevent land erosion, none of which is grounded in science, simply a desire to try and save their land in whatever way they can. It's forecast that these islands will completely disappear in the next 20 to 30 years. Take a moment and just think about that for a second. We, our nation, we grapple with the question at times, what might it mean for us if the United States didn't exist anymore? We've only existed for a couple hundred years. The Kiribati people have lived on their islands for over a millennia, over 1,000 years. They have inhabited these islands peacefully, living their way of life, living their culture. And within the next generation, their land won't exist. It was very humbling as I was present to that reality, to reflect on the passport I was carrying, my U.S. passport, knowing that this nation is the largest per capita user of energy on planet Earth. We, residents of this nation, are the largest per capita users of energy on planet Earth. And when the annual Conference of Parties, the COP meetings that discuss climate change and are supposed to be moving things forward, when those annual meetings happen, the U.S. representatives at these meetings are the ones that, doesn't matter which party they're representing, by the way, the U.S. representatives are the ones that say, if only China and India and Brazil would make significant commitments to changing their energy consumption, then of course we would. Of course we would. But in the absence of that, why? How could we? Why would we? And so nothing changes. 20 plus years of COP meetings every year. And we here continue to turn on the light switches, fuel our cars, fly in planes, watch our streaming TV shows. And don't get me wrong, I do all these same things as much as any of you might. It's about our culture, our pattern of life, the things we take for granted as somehow essential for our way of life. They aren't necessarily essential. But I can tell you what we sure as heck don't think about is how when we do those things, turn on the lights, fuel our cars, fly in planes, watch streaming TV shows, whatever else, we're not thinking about the light switch being on might mean that an entire civilization of people will lose their land. We prefer to be blissfully ignorant of that, or pretend we don't know, even though we know. So in response to this sad cultural, national, international reality, what is the UUSC doing? You know, what's kind of amazing, the UUSC's philosophy around justice work is so beautiful. I can't say enough good stuff about it. The philosophy, they recognize they don't have infinite resources, time or money to try and solve everything on planet Earth. So what they do is they look towards the most vulnerable people, the most marginalized and vulnerable people on planet Earth. In this island nation of Kiribati, it is people with disabilities, it is women, it is gay and lesbian and trans folk. And those are the groups that we're working with in Kiribati, our UUSC, on behalf of all of us. They're working on empowering those populations of already marginalized and vulnerable people so that they're not forgotten tomorrow when crisis hits. This is a nation that doesn't have the financial resources or the capacity to look after its own citizens adequately today. So we are helping make sure that these vulnerable populations are not forgotten, either today or tomorrow. It's through working with these populations, and in particular a group I mentioned, Te Toa Matoa, which is a disability rights federation in Kiribati. Te Toa Matoa is also, in addition to supporting the day-to-day lives of folks living with disabilities of various kinds, they're doing work of cultural preservation. I learned that Te Toa Matoa has a band. They have a band that is comprised almost entirely of folks who are blind, who can't see. They have no music teacher. They taught themselves how to play music. And in teaching themselves how to play music and how to sing, they have learned all the traditional type of music of their people, of the Kiribati people, and they've tried to also update it and make it a bit more modern so that the young people of their culture today can feel like they can engage, that this is still relevant to them. They're doing the work not just of cultural preservation, but of cultural engagement, of making sure that they're engaging their young people in their culture. This is kind of amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful work. What can each of us do in supporting this work of the UUSC? One of the things we can do is directly support Te Toa Matoa. And today we have a shared collection. Our shared plate will go to the UUSC, and specifically for a fundraiser to support the UUSC's partner in Kiribati, Te Toa Matoa. The musicians of Te Toa Matoa lost all of their instruments due to water damage. And as I alluded to, getting any kind of equipment or instrumentation into the country from outside is highly expensive. And so they haven't been able to replace all of their equipment and instruments. And they asked the UUSC, could you please help us do this? Because we want to go back to doing that work of cultural preservation and cultural engagement. And the UUSC said, yes, we want to try and help you do that. We, even as we, help others far away from us honor their culture, their tradition, preserve their identity and their memory. You know, I invite us to be grounded in what Reese reminded us of a short while ago, which is how we ground ourselves in who we are as a people. We are surrounded by young ones. Whether we are parenting or grandparenting or not, there are young ones in this community and the broader community of Washtenaw County. They are watching us. Even if our governments are failing miserably at achieving any kind of solution to the crises that face humanity, we can still try to do our level best, individually and as a community. Not because it's going to achieve magic solutions which individual and smaller community solutions can't provide, but because we are modeling for the world how we should have been living all along, how we should have been treating one another, how we should have been treating the environment, how we should have been treating the resources, the natural resources that we're a part of. We can trust that that matters, that living into our values matters. We can trust that it's having an impact on the young ones that we're connected to, the young ones that are all around us. I invite us to know that deeply and well, hold that in your hearts, knowing that this is a community that is committed and has been committed to doing what our governments have been unable to do. It matters that we hold that commitment. As we take a breath, and move into a time of offering. Our ushers will come forward in just a few moments with baskets for our shared collection this morning that will go to Teito in support of Teitoa Matoa, in support of helping these islanders thousands of miles away from us engage in their culture and preserve their culture. And I invite you to, if you reach for your billfold, consider a bill higher than what you might have otherwise given. Reach in and give as generously as you can. If you're here in the sanctuary with us, you can give electronically as well by texting UUAA to 73256 or going online to uuaa.org/giving. Select the shared collection, select UUSC. If you do that, please consider giving as generously as you can in support of our values, in support of knowing that we need to make a difference, should be making a difference, aspire to make a difference on these very human realities that matter to all of us. Today's collection will now be gratefully received. As our ushers come forth, I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our dedication. And if you'd like to give to this UUSC shared plate in the week ahead, please know that you can. Checks can be brought into the office or online donations also made in the week ahead. Let us join our voices as well as our hearts as we dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Please remain standing as you're comfortably able. Our closing hymn is in your gray hymnals, number 318, We Would Be One. Beloveds, as you go forth into this new week, hold true in your heart your own commitment to build and live into a nobler world than we have known. Know that it matters that you hold that commitment, that we know in our hearts what better forms of relationship look like, better relationship with ourselves, with other human beings, with our whole world, the natural world around us. It matters that we have that commitment individually. It matters that we hold that commitment here as a community, one of our community's top commitments being to make a difference on climate change. Go forth knowing that you are held and encouraged in all of that until we are together again. Go in love and peace. Blessed be. Amen.